Welcome to the Know, I'm Mica.
I'm Ben.
It is already that time of the year. It means it's earnings season. Yay! It's when all the companies get together to talk about how much money they made, or in some cases, how much money they didn't make.
It's dollar bills, y'all. And publishing giant EA's earnings call this week was definitely one to write home about. We got updates about the officially delayed Anthem, the next Battlefield landing in October, Respawn's third-person action Star Wars game hitting before March 2020, and the news that EA is considering their own Battle Royale mode. You should watch that roundup for more info on that.
Yeah, but one of the big headlines from the call was EA's commentary about Battlefront 2 and its loot box controversy. For one, they confirmed what many had been expecting already, that the game underperformed the firm's expectations, plus they acknowledged that, yeah, it was because of microtransactions and loot boxes.
What?
I know!
Battlefront
crazy.
has loot boxes? I never would have guessed. So does that mean gamers won? Was the loot box Death Star defeated?
Nope! Suck it! Because EA also reaffirmed their love and commitment to microtransactions, saying not only that they're for sure coming right back to the game, which we already knew, but that loot boxes aren't gambling and that the company still wholeheartedly believes in live services, so get wrecked.
All right.
Yeah.
And you too can be saved if you ask microtransactions into your heart. As we said, all these new quotes from EA come courtesy of both the earnings call with investors as well as a pre-call discussion the company had with Wall Street Journal.
Considering it was one of their biggest games of the year and also led to one of the biggest controversies of the year, it was only natural that the subject of Battlefront 2 was gonna come up, and how it performed given all the noise made by players. When the game was released, it was widely panned for grindy pay-to-win progression, mostly hidden behind a paywall. Players revolted, and EA eventually pulled them out of the game altogether.
So how does the company feel about Battlefront 2 now? Well, on the call, EA called Battlefront 2 a learning opportunity for them. Well, a lesson that came with a very expensive price tag of a steep $186 million net loss for the quarter.
Oh wow, that's hurts.
A little bit of money.
A little bit. That loss was because the game didn't sell to the company's expectations, which many had guessed from early retail reports. In some territories, it was down as much as 60% from its predecessor at launch.
EA CFO Blake Jorgensen said on the call that they had projected 8 million units, but we fell short of that by less than 1 million units. That puts Battlefront 2 sales at around 7 million units total, including digital and physical, which is way short of the 13 million that 2015 Star Wars Battlefront sold during its launch quarter.
And the reason for the dip in that sales? Well, Jorgensen indicated to the Wall Street Journal that this was primarily because of the loot box controversy. Company CEO Andrew Wilson was a little more specific, saying that it was due to the sentiment and community data coming out of the beta and early trials, and also that hugely world record breaking Reddit post that was downvoted into oblivion. That did help.
But EA still found some reasons to sweet talk investors despite that dip in numbers. Wilson went on to note that fans spent twice as much time playing Battlefront 2 versus Battlefront 1, which in and of itself isn't that much of an accomplishment considering the lack of content in the first game.
Ouch.
Still, he also added 70% of players tried out the new campaign.
Of course, none of that really makes the company any extra money, especially now that the loot boxes have been nixed, which is why they announced to the investors that they're welcome, the loot boxes are on their way back.
Yay. We already knew that this was going to be the case, but investors still had some questions about that because there was so much negative coverage about loot boxes in general, with lots of headlines likening them to gambling.
On the question of whether or not loot boxes are gambling, well, you can guess which side EA came down on that issue. CFO Blake Jorgensen said, "We do not believe that loot boxes and similar mechanics are a form of gambling. I think there are plenty of governments around the world that have agreed with us on that. And there isn't just us, it's the entire industry. We work very carefully and closely with all of our industry partners and the ESA, the industry body, to make sure that people understand exactly what loot boxes are, exactly why they are not gambling, and we will continue to engage in that going forward."
They are definitely not gambling.
Nope.
They
thank
are
you.
just a cash cow.
Just walk away, nothing to see here. We are not gambling. This
I like
is
to
not a
imagine
casino.
he did that whole conference call with like the little poker hat and the glasses and he was
While
dealing
he's,
cards the whole time.
Playing with his chips at his table.
CEO Andrew Wilson reiterated that it's all about player choice. They just didn't get the balance right. In fact, EA isn't swayed at all about the controversy and doubled down on the prospect of microtransactions and live services in general. Because EA believes that when done right, they really can lengthen out the lifespan of a game.
The company said on the call, "Going forward, we believe that live services that include optional digital monetization, when done right, provide a very important element of choice that can extend and enhance the experience in our games. We're committed to continually working with our players to deliver the right experience in each of our games and live services."
While it's easy to demonize that quote on the surface, they actually kind of have a point, or at the very least some pretty easy examples to pull that have already happened. We've had a number of games in recent years that have kept their communities alive and even thriving because of in-game collectibles, some of which do cost money. Rainbow Six Siege and Counter-Strike Go are prime examples.
Yeah, and regardless, EA has quite a few reasons to lean into that stance, like hundreds of millions of reasons. On the call, EA also revealed the company's digital net bookings, which include basically all of its live service numbers, and last quarter alone, they totaled $787 million.
It's like 2 student debts, right?
Do you know how many chicken nuggets that is?
I don't want to go there.
God!
That's nearly a 40% growth from the previous year during the same quarter. So regardless of how you feel about live services and microtransactions, there are definitely millions of gamers out there who do seem to enjoy playing a game continually and dumping more money into it.
Yeah, in this case, that game is probably FIFA, which is now, according to EA, sporting a community of 42 million players, and all of those live service microtransactions propelled EA to have a very strong quarter, despite the loss, that they saw from Battlefront 2.
So if you haven't realized it yet, this is why microtransactions are here to stay.
Yeah.
However, it should be encouraging for people who thought these types of mechanics were not only game-breaking, but also predatory. EA is acknowledging that made a difference, and big enough that it hurt them where it really counts.
Which means that others around the industry are going to take notice of that, and how could you not after what went down with Battlefront 2? Need I remind you of the Reddit thread? Gamers drew a line in the sand and said enough is enough, and now the publisher has to respond to it. So now we'll just have to see if they seriously revamp loot boxes when they come back.
What do you guys think of EA responding to the Battlefront 2 loot box controversy? Let us know in the comments.
And for future updates on all things gaming, remember to like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the Now.
As we
Considering it was one of their biggest years, it was down as much as 60% from its predecessor.
CEO Andrew Wilson reiterated that it's all about player choice. They didn't. While it's easy to demonize, I was going to say demonetize.
I thought that's what I said too.